The UFC pound for pound list is absolutely god awful right now. Looking through it, I hardly agree with any of the champion placements. So today, we're going to be ranking all the champions from worst to best. First, we got Bilal Muhammad. First of all, he has zero defenses. He beat a stylistically favorable matchup. I know going into that we said Leon would beat him because it's anti-wrestling, but let's really get down to the brass tacks. In the Usman 2 fight, he was getting dominated the whole time, and then he landed the lucky head kick, which was one of the greatest moments, but he didn't outclass Usman that fight. He was getting dominated. The third fight, I mean, after you get knocked out cold, you're never the same. Usman still did, he did decent, ended up being a solid decision for Leon, whatever. The Colby Covington fight. He loses the fifth round to Covington with Covington's foot broken and gets out wrestled by Covington. Not to mention that Covington is washed currently. Covington is not what he used to be. And the Covington that fought Usman, or even Masvidal, this Covington was coming off like a year layoff after getting sucker punched in the street, and he was not himself. So it was there. We could see that it was possible for Edwards to get out wrestled pretty easily. Not to mention he breaks at the first sign of struggle. When it got into the deep waters of the Usman fight, you saw him break, and yeah, he pulled off the head kick. But if he didn't, listen to the commentary. His posture was terrible. His mindset was terrible. The same thing happened in the Bilal fight. He just got mogged, pretty much. It was a good stylistic matchup for Bilal. Second of all, he's 35, not going to be in his prime much longer. I'll be surprised if he can defend against Shavkat, not because Shavkat's way better or anything, but just because no one can beat age. And that's who Bilal's fighting against. So I got Bilal last place. Next, this is going to be controversial, but I got Alex Pereira. You can say whatever you want, but just look at the facts. Who is he beating? He's beating all strikers. He's beaten one striker that can grapple in Jan Blachowicz, which it was extremely close. Personally, watching it live, I wanted Pereira to win, obviously, but I thought Jan won. And then who else did he fight? Yuri, striker. Jamal, striker. Yuri, striker. Roundtree, striker. Four strikers in a row as a striker that he fought. Perfect stylistic matchups for him. Now, if he beats Ankalaev and Ankalaev actually wrestles, then I can move him up. But for now, he's just beating stylistically favorable matchups. And the light heavyweight division is so thin. It is one of the weakest divisions in the sport. Not hard to climb the ladder at all there. Next, I got Tom Aspinall. Obviously, he's not that unified champ yet, but his skills are definitely there, 100%. The thing is, if you really watch his fights, he's not as technical as you may think. He gets tagged up a lot in his fights, and I think it's only a matter of time till he gets knocked out. Not to mention, if you were to take his skill level and translate it into lower weight classes, it'd be over. He fights with his chin in the air, like a brawling style. His offensive wrestling and submission ability is very good, but we've never seen his defensive grappling necessarily check. His only loss in his career, obviously to Blades, but that was a fluke. He hurt his knee. But his only actual loss in his career was by a submission. So who's to say that he can defend the ground game well? And that's what we're going to find out with the Jones fight. Not to mention, heavyweight's one of the weakest divisions. Heavyweight is the weakest division in the UFC right now. Hardly any new prospects. I mean, you got Almeida, that's like it. Pavlich got Frodchek. He's on a 2-fight skid. That division's so thin. We also just saw Pavlovich get beaten by Volkov. So that win is aging worse for Aspinall. And like Aspinall, Pavlovich also fights with his chin in the air. So it was only a matter of time before one of those guys got knocked out. Tom got clipped good, but he ended up landing the better punches. So good on him, but I can't put him any higher than this. Next, we got DDP. Technically, he'd be at the bottom of the list, but he makes it work. His performance against Izzy, I think he was losing that fight, but he's able to squeeze it out and win that one. I do believe he beat Strickland. He had a crazy performance against Whitaker, and I think just those three alone are enough to put him here. Obviously, his earlier career wasn't the best, but he still has yet to lose in the UFC, and he's a finisher. What decisions does he have? The Strickland, and I can't think of another one. We'll have to see how the rematch with Strickland goes, but obviously, if he wins, he's going to move up. But I just think his cardio is insane. His power is insane. He has his blitz somehow surprisingly worked. He's a very well-rounded mixed martial artist, and that's why I have him where he is. Next, we got John Jones. Obviously, prime John Jones, I have him at 1. But this version of John Jones, it's not what it used to be. With that being said, no one else is submitting Cirogan that fast. Don't try to say Aspinall is. He's not. Volkov couldn't do it. I think that Zero win is extremely impressive. In his fight against Miocic, he was dominant that whole time. Only one round was kind of close, but everything else was all Jones. Beautiful takedown in the first, and then he had a really good right, a 1-2 combo before he finished Stipe with a body kick. But his striking alone, how fast he can throw his kicks up, his distance management, and his grappling, even now, is superb. Like one of the best well-rounded fighters in the UFC, if not the best, even at his age that he's at. He's undefeated. Jones, extremely well-rounded. Like I said with Aspinall, the talent in his division isn't quite there. Not too many prospects, but overall, I think he's an amazing fighter at his current state. Next, we got Pantoja. I mean, who else has ran through the division like Pantoja has? Every fight from now on is just a rematch of some guy he's already beaten. He has insane power, an insane chin, insane grappling. He's extremely well rounded overall. He's fast. His conditioning is not the greatest, but it's still pretty good. Obviously, his division's not the best division in the UFC. It's probably the second or third worst after heavyweight and light heavyweight. Pantoja's just, he's a beast. He's very entertaining. If you like watching grappling, you're going to like him. If you like watching striking, you're going to like him. The fight with Asakura was fireworks while it lasted, flying knees, overhands. He just fights at the craziest pace. Overall, I think his skill set's one of the best in the UFC. Next, we got Merab. Now, technique-wise, he's not nearly the best, but just by his cardio alone, that takes him where he is on this list right now. His cardio is the best cardio we've ever seen in the UFC, for one. And for two, his wrestling is not bad, but pair his above average wrestling with his goated cardio, it's a lethal combo. He can shoot 50 takedowns. He's eventually going to get one. Look what he did to Umar. He broke Umar. And not only for this reason am I putting him this high, but you got to look at his resume. Umar, Aldo, Jan, 50-45 Jan. One of the craziest wins I've ever seen. O'Malley, Moraes. His resume is absolutely insane and one of the best in the UFC. After Umar lost to him, I don't really know who's going to beat him. The only reason he's not higher up is because the Umar fight was close, and I could see a world where Umar beats Merab if he tweaks a few things, but overall, I think Merab's on pace to be one of the greatest fighters of all time. I already think he's in the top 10. Next, we got Ilia Topuria. There's no one in the division that's going to be close to beating him, and that's why he's this high. Featherweight's a great division, but who in Featherweight's going to beat him? Diego Lopez? Are you going to tell me Diego's a better striker than Holloway? Or a better striker than Volk? Or is he going to out-grapple him? Are you going to tell me Diego's a much better grappler than Mitchell? Jiu-jitsu-wise, Mitchell's a beast on the ground. Ilya took care of him pretty easily. I don't see him posing any threat. Evloev, same thing. I think Ilya could easily deal with him. He has some of the greatest power in the UFC. Him and Alex Pereira are close. And then, obviously, his jiu-jitsu is good. Like many of these other guys, he's extremely well-rounded. He's also undefeated, and he beat the top two featherweight goats back-to-back knockouts. Max has never been knocked out before, and he just did it in 3 rounds. So that win's absolutely huge for legacy. But at number one, the best UFC champion, it's got to be Islam. He has 2 wins over Volk, win over Hooker, which is aging like crazy, win over Prime Oliveira, Moicano, Poirier. Just those names alone are insane. And then I see a lot of people trying to take credit away for the second Volk fight, but what else was he supposed to do in that fight to make his performance any better? He had the best possible performance he could have possibly had on a Volk that's coming off a couch. That win, I think, the way he finished Volk in that second fight is just as good as his first one. How could he have done better? How could he have done better? Can someone please tell me how he could have had a better performance against Volk in their second fight than he did? Same with Moicano. That win is insane. He did exactly what he's expected to. Round 1 sub on a good jiu-jitsu guy. It's not like Moicano, some novice in the ground game. He's very experienced, and he submitted him in 1 round. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to, and I think both those wins should still be accounted for very highly. And to be honest, there's no one in his division that beats him. Arman, Islam has what it takes to out-grapple him. Obviously, his striking is far better. Same with Oliveira. Again, the striking is probably even. Maybe Islam's is a little better. I think he has enough experience where he's not going to get caught in submissions. Max Holloway, he doesn't have the defensive grappling to beat Islam, but I think that'd be a good fight. Overall, Islam's easily the best champ in the UFC right now, and he's definitely in the top 10, if not top 5 pound for pound greatest fighters of all time. So that's all I had for today. Let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, tell me what you'd change, and make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the UFC Saudi Arabia fight night picks.